Welcome to Dare to Innovate. Very excited about our episode here today. Thank you guys for viewing and listening. We have two very special guests, and we're going to be talking about optimizing technology management through digital transformation. With me, I have Giles Johnson from Avery Dennison and Patrick Mulvihill from Calero, our Chief Operating Officer. Giles, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within Avery?
Sure. My name's Giles Johnson. I'm the Senior Telephony Service Manager for Avery Dennison. Avery Dennison is a manufacturing company specializing in branding. We have largely two main businesses. One is our solutions group, which specializes in branding for shirts, tags, shoes, you name it. And then our label and packaging material, which is kind of self-explanatory. We are in about 58 countries and we have about 30,000 employees. So you can imagine we've got a large estate that we're trying to get our arms around.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, tell us a little about your role at Calero.
Sure. At Calero, Chief Operating Officer. So all of operations rolls up to me, 7 business units. We lead things from implementation to ongoing operations, ongoing services, and we have some ancillary services as well within our shared services business unit. What makes us unique, though, is we have our own in-house managed mobility team servicing many, many customers, and they're extremely happy with the service we've been providing over the last 18 months. It's new for us, Andrew.
So, Patrick, obviously you're Chief Operating Officer now, but you previously, sat in a variety of different roles within organizations. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So over 20 plus years, bouncing back and forth between operations and technology. And you can't do operations without technology in today's day and age. And that really gets to digital transformations. Every organization is going through different digital transformations. It's different for them, different for their estates, but you can't do one without the other. Technology needs operations, operations need technology. So both of those together is a perfect match and blend for here at Calero.
Are you going to break out into song right now?
I could sing. I haven't auto-tuned, but we could possibly make it happen.
I could feel like you getting into it.
I got
the
excited.
Rhythm was coming.
I did. It happened.
The rhythm was coming.
Yeah.
It was going to get you.
It was there.
So, guys, we're talking about digital transformation. We're talking about the work within technology. Patrick, why are we talking about this today? What's really going on within the enterprises?
Well, in my mind and what I see across our customers' estates, a lot of estates, is the word digital transformation. And I've already said it means something different for every organization. But when you really think about a digital transformation, it could be we want to reinvent our website. We want to bring on new applications or go cloud. But the commonality across all that is your infrastructure, your telecom infrastructure. It connects it all and moves the data between it. And you have to start there to make sure you know what you have, it's optimized, it's the right size, the right speed, and you're paying the right amount of money for it. And then you build on top of that. You got to have the solid foundation there, Andrew.
Yeah, so what I found really interesting about that is you talked about digital transformation means something different to everybody. And so, Giles, I would love to hear from you when you think about Avery. What does digital transformation mean to you guys? And
Sure.
Within Avery Dennison.
Yeah, I guess I'd say it largely means modernizing, right? So for us, it's modernizing all of our infrastructure, rationalizing applications, operating digitally the same way that our customers do, finding value across different digital data sets. And for me, my job is to, as Patrick said, to try and make this more efficient, right? Basically, if we can save some dollars and some time, then that's dollars and time spent somewhere else. And for the business, that could be money invested in operating equipment or manufacturing equipment. So we're encouraged to seek productivity wherever we can, and that's the largest thing for me as a kind of, I guess, one of the champions of driving forward this digital age.
Productivity is always an interesting term that you hear used. Digital transformation gets used for a variety of things, productivity. How do you guys define productivity?
In several different ways, and it's kind of surprising because a lot of people just think about productivity as cost out. But the reality is we always think about it in terms of improving the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure, so making it more resilient, more highly available. We also think about productivity in terms of cybersecurity and ensuring that the organization is safe moving forward through all of these new digital journeys. So I think there are several different layers of productivity, and I guess I'd encourage everybody to think about it, um, not just about cost savings,
Yeah.
but to think of it in terms of efficiencies and safeguards.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about Avery's, transformation, and I always struggle with transformation as the word as part of digital transformation because it doesn't really ever stop. It's just a different, I like digital evolution or other things, but I understand it's a term, it's out there. Gartner uses it, so everybody's got to use it. As we're going through things, it's not a stopping point. But you guys made some intentional decisions years ago. So take us through kind of your guys' a little bit of your path.
Yeah, so I think in the telephony side, we started out almost a decade ago by going through an audit for mobility, and that audit led us directly to the conclusion that we have too many disparate practices about managing these services internationally, and at that time we decided to issue an RFP, and you guys were actually selected for our European theatre, and so we started there. And as we've kind of got more familiar with the services, and also as we've kind of walked through kind of globally trying to standardize some of the services, we've recognized that there are opportunities beyond that. The SaaS management, potentially things like benchmarking, and that the value kind of goes beyond where the telephony expense management stopped. And for us, it was really important that when we decided to consolidate down to one global provider for expense management, we wanted to make sure that we picked the right company that kind of had the mindset that they're looking to achieve, kind of value beyond those traditional silos. So we looked at a lot of things. We looked at things like geography, the services, and how happy we were with them up until this point. We also looked at things like the roadmap, and determined that the roadmap was a very big differentiator, because we felt as though the trajectory that you guys were on kind of mirrored where we wanted to be. And it's okay, well, if we partner with the people that are looking to try and drive value into kind of core enterprises in the long term, then what we can do is we can try and partner with them, be part of that journey, and kind of reap the rewards of being kind of early pioneers with you.
So when you think about modernization, and what was really the decision for Avery to say, look, we need to go through something different. The business isn't operating as productive as it could. What were the decision points for you guys to say we need to do something different?
The decision point was recognizing that there was frankly, some waste. I think at one point we determined that our mobility spend globally was probably twice as much as we thought it was, just as part of that initial audit process. Over the years, I'd say we've reduced our cost structure and mobility by about probably 75%, 60 to 75%, very, very significant. We found those efficiencies elsewhere as well. By looking between countries and between our service providers, we've been able to identify opportunities. We've also been able to identify things like where we've got high usage, no usage, low usage, where we can optimize. And that's one of the things, Patrick, your team's done a great job for us in kind of coming in and helping us optimize that environment with the audit and optimization. And it's something that we hope that we can continue on with SaaS management as well, which is the next big thing for us, and we're probably up to about our maybe our knees in that at the moment, but there's still some more to go, and we're looking forward to to kind of taking some steps on this with you.
So Patrick, digital modernization and transformation is what we're talking about. You see a lot of customers day in and day out, and people going through this journey. What are you seeing out of your? What's the reason they're making decisions to do different things?
I see a couple things. Internally motivated. There's some internal goals, objectives, strategies where they want to revamp and bring redundancy into their infrastructure. They're moving into new countries, or they're consolidating, or new government regulations could be coming out where they got to change out how they manage and distribute mobility and how they lock those phones down. So it's kind of it's all over the place.
Yeah.
The nice thing is we see everything, have seen everything, and we can coach, advise, and be very prescriptive, and we can lay it out for you. And then based on your unique requirements and needs, we can tailor something that's very specific for you.
And I'd say I love to hear that, because that's what our experience has been. Sometimes we come to you guys and say, look, we've got a problem here in this area.
Yeah.
What's your experience of dealing with this? What would you say best practice is? And, sometimes it's nice to have that, but it's also, really nice to, I guess, feel like you've got people who are talking the same language, who've been on that journey already,
Yeah.
and that you can kind of, partner to try and address those problems. I think it's important.
Yeah. And we always lead with, what's the outcome are you trying to get?
Yeah.
Right. We're not just going to come with a solution. What's the outcome? And then we'll back into the right solution based on our experience. Right.
So when we talk about vendor consolidation, and that kind of is where you guys started the journey, Giles, what was the impetus to say, look, I have, everybody's got multiple pieces of software. A lot of times it does the same thing across that. You had a few different types. What was the point to consolidate on one kind of technology management system? Why did you guys feel you needed to do that?
We felt we needed to, because we were not getting sufficient visibility of the whole global estate, and that's super important when your business units are, multiple countries.
Yeah.
I think it also led to some inefficiencies in being able to compare between vendors, between regions, and also having different business practices in place where you had some, maybe some limitations of the tool set, for example. So for us, the decision was it was a fairly easy one. I've got to be honest with you. Like, after we did all of the work, looking at the culture, the services that we were getting, the level of support, but then also taking a deep dive into the tool set to say, how does this tool set work, and to what extent can we kind of, leverage it for analysis and for decisions? At the end of the day, it became very clear that you had that part down, but that also the trajectory, the other services that you were layering on top, would add value over and above what we'd already delivered. Right, so important for us in our evolution to look forward to what's coming next, and this really was, this is what's coming next. We've got to make sure we pick the right horse here.
I wish you would told me that before we had gone through all that. It would have made my life a lot less stressful. So thanks, Giles. Patrick, as we talk about kind of vendor consolidation, we see this a lot. We obviously deal with a lot of different customers. What are some of the things that you're seeing? Is it similar to what the decisions that Giles was making, or is it different within different customers?
I would say it varies between customers, and I try not to give that answer, but it's true. It does vary, again, to what the customer's trying to do. We have some customers that want to diversify, which isn't the answer to your question, but some want to diversify across 3 primary carriers, and then we have others that say, wow, I got a fantastic deal, or you helped me negotiate this great deal. I want to consolidate on this one vendor. And then we will work with them to migrate all their circuits, all their mobility, et cetera, to that one vendor. So I would say it depends.
Yeah, and for a large corporation like Avery, I think we'd almost always rather be, the bigger fish in the pond, and to the extent that where we share all of that amongst multiple different carriers, you start to lose something, right?
Yeah,
so
you lose the pull with the carriers.
Yeah,
right?
you lose the pull with the carriers. You're also multiplying how much you're managing, and how many contracts you've got, etc. So there's some inefficiencies with doing it that way. Although some enterprises, to your point, they've got business units that need that type of independence, right? So for us, at the corporate level, we try and deliver, standard services. And if you like, where we need to do an amendment to do something different, that's kind of how we think about it.
Yeah.
So, Giles, I've always found Avery's story interesting in your kind of path. I mean, you guys started with mobility, worked more into telecom, and now you're going down the journey of SaaS. How did you, how did that kind of play out, or why did you make those decisions to do it in that fashion, or what did you see the value in?
So initially we saw the value in mobility. We knew that there was some spend out there that wasn't adequately managed that we wanted to capture. As soon as we'd started doing that, then we started to think, well, what about if we want to rationalize between services? Maybe somebody doesn't need a desk phone and a mobile phone.
You still have desk phones?
Believe it or not, there are a few out there. So we also kind of look at this and say, look, there's lots of legacy technologies out there. Still, there are still PBXs out there.
Yeah.
There are still ISDN circuits out there as well. And having that kind of, that technical debt, that legacy equipment managed to the point that you can identify it for things that should be replaced with something more modern is very advantageous to have as many data points, bits of information in the tool as possible. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to evolve and get out of that technical debt as soon as possible so that we're in more cloud-based services. We're operating with true data circuits rather than voice circuits. We're moving away from PBXs. We're rationalizing services. That's where we really want to be. And the SaaS element of this is so exciting because it almost feels like the way telephony did, 10, 15 years ago.
Now you're aging all of us.
Yeah. Sorry. where there was still some areas that needed to be worked through to be matured and some opportunity, frankly.
Patrick, I want to ask Giles another question. I'm going to come to you to hit some of that point. When you think about that, what was your SaaS was obviously new. Everybody's buying SaaS licenses. It's a massive problem within the enterprise. I know personally, I am a massive ball of waste when it comes to. I have 3 different licenses for different conferencing software. I generally use Teams, but every once in a while I got to use GoToMeeting, and I have it. What was the reason why you guys went down that path? Telecom and mobile were great programs achieving, your guys' goal. What was it that said, all right, I needed to go do SaaS? How did you guys identify that you may have had a problem?
We really identified it primarily for UCaaS. So UCaaS obviously a SaaS model, but the next evolution of telephony.
Yeah.
When you guys approached us and said, hey, we think we can actually, integrate with one of our providers at the time, RingCentral. Great, by the way. We recognize this and we said, well, look, there's some areas here where we can leverage this tool to look at things like no and low usage. We can also integrate with our HR database to say, these people have left the organization. Why have they got a license? So we thought that there were a lot of efficiencies there. And that's why it was and you probably remember this painfully, a big part of the contract negotiation.
I do. I remember sitting in a conference room in Ohio and,
So trying to make sure that we had those capabilities, because we had the gut sense that if it worked for UCaaS, then it might work for all of the other SaaS providers that we've got out there. And us, largely buying new applications in the cloud like any other large enterprise, we felt as though there may be some opportunity there. So we wanted to ensure that capability was there and kind of work our way into it, so grow into it, essentially.
Absolutely. So Patrick, when we think about other customers where we're seeing digital transformations happening, cleaning up legacy, technical debt, which exists in every organization, no matter your size, unless you started yesterday and then tomorrow you'll have technical debt. Because you'll buy something that's old already. What else are we seeing within enterprises in terms of technical debt and how they're cleaning it up?
Yeah, technical debt, it ranges across the entire spectrum. So some of it we'll categorize as I've overbought. I've overbought and I just left it the way it was because I don't want to change it, or I don't want to be accountable for, reducing the size of a line coming into a building just in case. So I would even categorize that as technical debt. I bought it. I don't want to deal with it. I'll just put it over to the shelf. Others are, we have organizations that will distribute mobile phones to every new hire, but still pay for the lines when the new hires decide to, or just the employees decide to leave or trid out, and they're still paying massive amounts of dollars on a monthly basis for not used lines. You also have hardware that's out there too when it comes to all that. And I would categorize it as zero usage. So tech debt, again, the answer always comes back to there's a lot of other different ways to identify, categorize tech debt, but we do see some of it now creeping into SaaS, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So we have organizations that say, I bought a SaaS license. I have 1,000 licenses for 2 years, no more, no less. But our whole value prop is, hey, we're going to help you optimize using those licenses within that estate. So when that 2 years comes up, you can say, yes, I do need more, or no, I don't. I need half that.
Yeah.
Work within that estate, optimize that estate, and continue to reuse what you have. Don't keep buying incrementally as people come on, for example.
Yeah, no, I think this is a problem with a lot of large enterprises in particular, right? They're eager to get to the next thing, but they don't spend enough time moving away from legacy equipment, which can be risky. It can provide security flaws, etc. And the other thing I think that probably isn't done very well is not really thinking about how to make it programmatic in terms of how do I manage this closely, how to ensure that there's no waste associated, vendor KPIs, SLAs, and ensuring that your dollar is best spent within that provider.
Well, a lot of times, I'll use my own examples. We find a new tool set that's going to help us go sell more. Well, I want to get that out as fast as I possibly can. There is no thought process in my head that says, am I continuing to optimize that? Do I make sure I have the right license? No, I want to go make my team as efficient as possible and drive productivity. And if I can ink out another bit, it's only going to cost me this much. But in 3 years, it's actually costing me triple that because I didn't realize that, or I haven't properly managed licenses. I haven't properly done that because that is not in my mindset at all. Let's just go spend. It's going to help.
That's where ops comes in, Giles. We take it from there.
Well, I think it's super important because before we had TEM solutions, right, a lot of this stuff was not visible to us. If the invoices are rolling into a TEM solution, if we're seeing that there's some spend out there that is maybe not well understood, it's an indicator for us that we need to turn a page, have a little look under the magnifying glass at that, and this is where the tool set and the people really comes in, because it's the data that we get, it's the analysis that we're able to do in the tool that leads us to the decisions that we make, that leads us to the actions that we then take, right? So it's that data kind of methodology around decision making and critical thinking that really helps drive us forward. But it's having access and visibility to the data and the ability to do that slicing and dicing in the tool that helps us get to those critical decisions.
Do you feel your Avery is unique as an enterprise?
I really don't. I think we've got some absolutely fabulous leadership. I'm blessed, seriously, that I can look above me and think, I got 3 solid, really good people directly above me, and they're like an umbrella. They keep the rain out from away from me, and they provide great clarity on where we should be looking as well. They've got some real good thoughts around strategic goals, and these are typically longer term as well, kind of 2028, and it makes it easy when you've got folks like that in your organisation. Now, can I speak to other organisations? No, I can't really. I came from Siemens Communications in the UK, another great organisation, where they were changed now. But I think a lot of large enterprises I've talked to recently are still fairly stuck in some of the mode of having a lot of legacy telephony in place, and because of that, they're unable to get past the dealing with the legacy stuff to look at where they can add value for things like SaaS, right? So, and this is where tools and services from folks like you kind of come in handy, because it helps augment your staff to get over that hump, right? At the end of the day, having operations, our business as usual for mobility through Calero means that some of my folks can take a step back and think about how the service is managed, how it's run, where we can find efficiencies, how we better operate with our vendors. And, it's that kind of partnership that I think allows us to operate where we want to be, more of that kind of tactical, borderline strategic manner.
There's a common misconception when in my perspective, and I'd love to hear your two on this, is that when you think about technology management and all of that, it's about controlling what everybody's doing. And in my mind, it's not that. In my mind, it is giving them the tools that they need to do their job and managing that well. It's not about going to Patrick and saying, do you really need that? I'm going to take this license away from you. I'm going to do this. No, I want to give you the tools and manage it efficiently across the board within that. You made the example of mobility. Well, I want to make sure this user needs a mobile device, has everything that they need, but doesn't have 15 more things that they don't need. Same thing with SaaS licenses. Hey, you need to have a Salesforce license. You need to have, a Ring Central license. You need to have access to this, this, and this. You don't use these other 5. Why do you need to have access to them? It's about spending dollars well. But there is a misconception in the space that we're trying to control, and it's not that.
You're trying to enable is really what you're trying to do. And I think it's tricky when you talk about things like usage policies and stuff like that, because you always need a bit of wiggle room in there, because you're always going to have users that maybe work in different ways than some of your standard users do. So I agree, you do want people to be successful in what they do, and it's not very often that we want to be the cop. Frankly, we want to help enable people with the technology.
Tell us what you need, and here we're going to manage it, to your point. And hey, you want to roll out some new SaaS application, great. But let's think through the ongoing management of that. How are we enabling the user to come in? How are we double checking that they're actually using it, and all of the other fun things? So Patrick, talk a little bit more about, when we think about enablement instead of management.
Sure. 2 words come to mind. I'll use the term value engineer. We'll help you value engineer your estate so it's as efficient as possible, so you get the results you want and the savings and the spend you want, as well as actionable insights. So we'll ingest all your information and we'll show it back to you in a clear and concise way, in a few screens, 1 screen, however we set it up for you, where you can make just split decisions. I want that, let's get rid of that, or let's go after that vendor and consolidate, or renegotiate that contract. You'll have panes of glass where you can make those split decisions and have actionable insights. And you could be given work. We could be making decisions as one team, Calero and your team, or I tell my team, we're just an extension of yours. We're one team all together. We win together, we lose together. So let's figure it out and build those actionable insights.
Yeah, and I always encourage, kind of folks in our team to think about our partners as an extension of our team. I think obviously, we've got to recognize sometimes you've got other people you need to take care of and stuff like that.
It's just you, Giles. That's it. It's just you. I bet.
But it's important that people are on the type of basis that they can pick up the phone and they can say, hey, I've got a problem with XYZ. What can you do to help me? Or how can we talk about this? What can we figure out together? That is so important that there's that kind of back and forth, because otherwise it gets too rigid, and when it's rigid, it just doesn't really.
Yeah, very fluid, and we'll say we got you.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
get back to you.
Yeah.
We've talked, a lot about Giles's journey and Avery's journey with Calero in terms of mobility and the telecom and managing those. Patrick, Calero made an intentional investment and said, hey, as we look at these types of spend that we're managing already today, and we look to the future, we saw SaaS as that next frontier of spend. Talk to me a little bit about why we did that and what we're seeing.
I would say that happened for 2 intentional reasons. First one is we saw where the market was going and we wanted to be leaders in it. So we got out there, we got out in front of it. Secondly was, thank God we did, because we had customers coming to us saying, hey, we're working on all the telecom, the managed mobility, but SaaS is coming up on us next. We have a tremendous amount of spend in SaaS. What can you do for us? And we said, we got you. We've already talked about that. It's about optimizing, managing the licenses, the estates that go along with all your different SaaS accounts. But what also comes up is InfoSec. InfoSec is starting to poke at and touch on SaaS management, license management, especially licenses or accounts that are no longer used, the employee left, or someone abandoned a license and it's no longer used. Those are all opportunities or doors for bad actors to gain access to your infrastructure, to your critical data, your systems, and emulate an employee, attend calls, get critical information out of internal meetings, et cetera. And that's where our solution has been helping these organizations out by identifying and shutting them down. As soon as we get the HR files in from our customers, we say, hey, this person's no longer here. We can kill the account in seconds. So we really have made great strides and helped our customers achieve their goals around InfoSec and really locking down those SaaS applications.
We talked about it a little bit, Giles, as we were going through, but are those some of the things that Avery was going through, or was it different?
No, I mean, exactly right. I mean, Patrick hit on one of the big things for us. In fact, we just leveraged a tool just this month to identify 137 UCAS licenses that were for people that had left the organization. So obviously they're gone now, but thanks. And I think the other thing that I'd say just on the SaaS management side is the way that you're thinking about it in terms of building in the automation into it makes it much more scalable than I think it could have been for things like mobility even.
Yep.
Because you're able to write those policies for the thresholds. Hey, this person used their license for the last 30, 60, 90 days. I'm going to automate an email out to them saying, hey, do you want to use this license or can we take it back into the pool? But it's the ability to automate that kind of stuff that is going to remove some of the effort from the enterprise and ultimately make the thing more efficient. And it's important for a couple of reasons. One is not just to keep it optimized, but the other is to optimize prior to when you negotiate contracts, so you know exactly what it is that you're contracting for. So you've level set, you know that you've got no waste in the organization, and that's your opportunity to go back to whichever SaaS provider it is and say, this is what I truly need. Because sometimes, you guys will know this, the reports that you get from providers are not always the most accurate.
I always find it's better to have more information than the person I'm negotiating with.
It helps.
Yes.
And I find SaaS and mobile used to be this way back in the back 5, 6, 7 years ago when you'd go sit with the mobile provider. We weren't quite sure what usage looked like and how this person was using the phone. They knew.
Yeah.
We as the enterprise, so as part of this is giving people information, and and the mobile, there's only so many vendors. You have 3, 4, 5 here in the US, depending on where you put that bar down. In the UK, you got the same amount. As you continue to go to each, there's only so many. So you have a little bit more control. But when you begin to think about the problem of SaaS, I mean, there's 1,000 different licenses that can be bought. There's, tens of thousands of different licenses that are purchased in a manner that says, I have no idea what I'm actually using.
And I do feel like SaaS is, I hate to say it this way, but it's the way that it really is. I feel like it's so much more in the supplier's favor than the customer's favor at the moment. And the reason for that is, even though these are flexible licenses, you're unable to scale down in a lot of instances. You can only scale up, and with some providers, it sticks at that point. It almost feels like telecom was 15 years ago, before there became this kind of awareness of, hey, if we all got together and asked for the same things, eventually these guys are going to have to move a little bit. So I kind of hope that it's going to move in that direction over the next decade. That eventually this will be something that you're able to consume in an up and down model. That that there's no shelfware. We're not paying for something that we're not using.
Right.
And that it's kind of equitable for the customers as well as the providers.
Yeah, and to me, the way we move there is with data.
Absolutely.
Knowing how an enterprise uses this certain application or that application, they're going to be used in different ways, and having a good sense of, here's the way we use it, here's the way we manage it, and here's what I need from you, Mr. SaaS vendor, and here's what I don't need. And here's those. If we can give that to the SaaS providers, I think at the end, they're going to appreciate, one, that we understand it, and 2, they're going to negotiate. They're going to work with us to continue to do that. So Giles, thank you so much for joining us today. Patrick as well. Thank you guys for watching and listening here on Dare to Innovate. Very interesting topic on optimizing technology management through digital transformation. Looking forward to seeing you guys on the next episode of Dare to Innovate. Thank you.
Stay on top of the conversation. Like and subscribe to our channel to get notified when our newest episodes release. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Dare to Innovate.